Hello everyone, this is Serious Trivia. Welcome back to our final patch breakdown video for patch 1.5. And as you can see the title from this one was remade. This one is now called 1.5.1 Hotfix. Previously, this episode was supposed to cover all the spy changes and the court changes in patch 1.5, but as of this morning, patch 1.5.1 has gone into beta and is now live. You can activate it through the beta screen in your Steam account, and it provides some hotfix for patch 1.5. So we're going to talk about both of these things in this episode, and let's jump right into it. First off, we have the spy updates. So this is from patch 1.5, and this has been very enjoyable so far as I have played them in my Yanbai campaign. First off, spies are given the mechanic of extraction and also a mechanic to help maintain their loyalty. Both of these are very useful. Sometimes you are losing spies who you have nothing you can do about it because they are basically having too much satisfaction in the enemy force and they're going to defect. And they tell you they're going to defect, but you have no way of stopping them. Now you can extract the spy. And sometimes they have too low satisfaction in enemy faction. And when they become so low, they leave the faction, like any other character. So now you have a mechanic to fix that as well, as you can maintain their loyalty in the enemy faction. So both of these are very nice quality of life changes. Foreign territory assignments. These are very interesting assignments that allow you to send your spies into enemy commanderies that you do not own. And the assignments they provide is similar to any other character assignments you might have in one of your settlements, only that they're going to have an extra cost similar to a spy cost. And one of the options is to scout, and it will provide full line of sight within the enemy commandery. This is just basically a scouting mission for your military before you advance on the commandery. Another is to build undercover network, which allows a faction to increase the rate that undercover network points are gained. So this helps your other spies in the faction by helping them gain undercover network, and to incite unrest. So this one's pretty straightforward. It just lowers public order and helps spark rebellions in the enemy commandery. And these characters on assignment has a capture chance. Means if their level's too low or if the mission's too hard, the enemies will have an ability or a chance to capture them. And lastly, if you have a spy in the enemy army, previously when you fought battles, you fought them regularly, and after battle you will capture your spy if you didn't kill them, and then you have a chance to have them released and continue beyond their mission, or you can extract them then. Now you have a pre-battle spy extraction option, and what happens with this option is that spies extracted from enemy armies before engaging them in battle would either go back to your pool, or you can even have the option have them show up as a reinforcing army for you. So in a case where you have 3-on-3 general full retinue fight, one army versus one army, you have a pre-battle spy extraction, have them reinforce, then the enemy is suddenly going to have 2 generals with full retinues and you're going to have 4. And the odds are going to be in your favor at that point. Lastly, my favorite thing with the spy update, and something that has engaged me a lot with the spy panel, which I usually don't visit that often, is the addition of turncoats. So this adds the ability for you to recruit a spy directly from a target faction itself. You will see in the spy menu, when you click add spies on the bottom right, you will see a list of factions that you can spy on, and sometimes one of those factions will have a little coin symbol next to their name. That coin symbol means there's a willing turncoat in that faction. Now, turncoats are characters who are willing to spy and are currently dissatisfied with their lord, or have a trait that relates to questionable loyalty or reliability. So like if they're disloyal as a trait, then they are likely to turn into a turncoat if they're dissatisfied, right? So in this sense, you can look for characters that are in other courts who can become your spy instantly. There's no downtime. Usually if you send a spy to someone, you have to wait for them to recruit them. In this case, you don't. They will just be ready for you in the faction, and my experience so far, they will gain a ton of undercover network points per turn, like in the 30s. And you can easily have them on missions right away, And sometimes these characters can be very interesting. For example, in my Yanbaihu campaign, I have been able to turn another emperor's wife into a turncoat and have her gain instant family mission access, and she can assassinate enemy emperors for me in the faction because she is already heir. So I can have the heir become a turncoat and then have them kill the leader and become the leader themselves, and then have more interesting options going forward like civil wars. Another way to use this is you look for unique characters, legendary characters with unique models in other factions who are willing to become turncoats. You pay about a 2,000 cost up front to recruit them, and then you can use the extraction method right away to have them join your faction. It's just another added mechanic for you to gain these unique characters. Some of the best ones are like Sima Yi, who will always join Cao Cao's faction, who has the disloyal trait, and it's very high level at the beginning, so it's very hard for Cao Cao to keep him happy, so he often becomes a turncoat, and you can easily grab him from that option with just 2,000 cost, and then he becomes yours. So there's a lot of cool mechanics like that. So that's all the spy mechanics that were changed in 1.5, and then there's one really cool court mechanic that was changed. So you can now grant your court administrators independence as a vassal. Please note that this does not work for capital administrators. So this was a gimmick that we tried to do before in one of our commandery guides, where if we pick a character who has 3 traits or 2 traits, where it says high desire for independence as a administrator, right? There are traits like that, like ambitious, and there's characters who are distinguished, who wants to go out and become independent. By independent, it means they start their own faction. And it was great because a lot of factions need vassals or coalition partners. And if you have one of your characters ask for independence, it's not like they are dissatisfied with you. They're basically asking for permission to go independent. And if you grant them, they start out with a pretty high diplomatic value with you. And you can easily annex them, not annex them, but vassalize them or add them into a coalition to help your other faction bonuses. And it can also help you reduce corruption in a sense because it reduces the number of territories you hold. Certain factions like Liu Biao, Yuan Shao, even Yuan Shu would all benefit from having vassals. Even Lu Bu's faction surprisingly would benefit from having vassals, because what happens is you are very poor at managing your commandery. So if you give them over as a vassal, add them into your empire, or add them as a vassal member, then they're going to be a lot better off contributing to your economy. And a lot of vassal members would send armies to protect the emperor's seat. So there are a lot of pros here. And now you can just, with the click of a button, make any administrator into an independent faction on the click of a button. So this is definitely something that's very cool and something you can utilize in a lot of your games. It's a very underrated change in patch 1.5. Okay, so that's everything that we have for 1.5 that's not Bandit related or FreeLC related. But we now have hotfixes for 1.5.1. This came out live. It's in beta. You can have it in your game today. And here's the issue it fixed. Most of these are hardcore bug fixes. First off, fix the issue where titles were not unlocking correctly once a save had been loaded. Loading saves create a lot of situations in the game. I think when Mandate of Heaven first came out, loading save messed up your income all the time. So they had a issue where loading a save means if you start a game, you save, you leave, and you come back, your titles can no longer be unlocked. They all become locked going forward. That's why when you start playing, you might pick up a few titles, but after that point, you stop getting titles entirely, even if you hit the requirements. So now that's fixed, so titles should work just fine for everyone. Confederations, once again, available as a diplomatic option once you become king and emperor. So similar to Abdicate disappearing, Confederation disappeared this time. Now it's back. Fixed issue where effects from building an assignment to reduce fervor weren't working in Mandate of Heaven campaign. So this pretty much knocked out Mandate of Heaven DLC because you couldn't reduce fervor at all. And you couldn't play the game because you had rebellions every turn. Now you can. Fixed issue where some Yellow Turban buildings in Mandate of Heaven require some tech from the main game. So this is an oversight that it's fixed. It took them a while. Consider this was probably a 1.4 bug. Bandit minor settlements can now gain population correctly. Thank the Lord. So basically, small counties for bandits had an issue where they're displaying population growth, but they were not actually growing. And now that you can actually have population in bandit counties. Fixed a bug where Yan Baihu was attacked while using poison volley ability. He becomes stuck and unable to move and fight for the rest of the battle. I personally didn't run into this bug. Maybe I was pretty careful with where I was shooting the poison volleys and didn't let people get into melee combat with him when he's shooting, because it would disrupt his poison volleys anyways. You want the full 4 hits. You want to get some distance between the enemy. Fixed the issue where political influence bars were not showing up for Liu Hong on his court screen. This was a big issue. Pretty much him unplayable as well, because you can't keep track of how much political influence you have. You can't get rid of your court. Fixed the issue where if Lu Bu has administrators and accept the event to move to Liu Bei's territory, those administrators were unassigned. So this was just a minor bug. I'm sure there's probably other bugs with Lu Bu as well, but this is one they fixed. Fixed the crash caused by requesting tribute from a faction which is the target of a mercenary contract. So this is a very small case where you demand tribute from a faction who is already a target of mercenary contract. I guess it's kind of messing up 2 layers of logic here, because you're supposed to be fighting them, but then you're asking tribute from them. Tao Qian is set so that he no longer spawns in a World Betrayed campaign, as he absolutely meant to be dead. Right? He's in the trailer as a dead body, but he shows up in a lot of people's campaign being an 80-year-old who's recruitable. This is just them not removing them from the character pool because they have already died already in 194. A lot of other characters are running into this problem too. It's just that they're not as so well known. For example, Yuan Yi also died already in 194, but he's still around to be recruited. There's probably going to be a huge list here. They're probably going to slowly get around to it. Some of the minor ones they might not mind so much if it's just like a generic general. But Tao Qian is definitely one of the high-profile ones that has made his round on the internet as someone who is alive in the World Betrayed, even though in the trailer he's shown as dead. Cheng Yu will no longer leave Cao Cao in a World Betrayed on turn 1 if the player starts a legendary campaign. So it's only happening to me on the preview videos because the legendary has a -10 satisfaction and Cheng Yu would drop to 0. I see. So Cheng Yu here is definitely a great advisor, strategist, general that Cao Cao had historically. We can talk a little bit about him now that he's highlighted here. So he joined Cao Cao very early on when Cao Cao started out. He originally was from a commandery named Dong. I'm sure many of you are familiar with it. And he rallied a local militia group to fight Yellow Turbans in Dong. And then when Cao Cao took over in a nearby commandery of Chenliu and in Chun area, he joined up with Cao Cao. And when Lu Bu backstabbed Cao Cao, not really backstabbed, but came in to take over Cao Cao's land when Cao Cao was at war with Tao Qian during this time, Cheng Yu and Xun Yu, these 2 advisors, held 3 cities for Cao Cao in this region from Lu Bu's attack. They held them on so that when Cao Cao's army came back, they had a good starting point to retake everything and chase Lu Bu out, which was ultimately what happened. Cheng Yu is probably most famous for his strategy given out during the Battle of Red Cliff, or Chibi, where he basically, after Cao Cao took over Jinzhou from Liu Biao, right? Liu Biao's son Liu Zhong surrendered Jinzhou to Cao Cao, and they had full control of everything north of the Yangtze River. Liu Bei's on the run, just went to Sun Quan. Cao Cao had a decision to make, because technically he wasn't forced to go south and invade Sun Quan, right? That wasn't something that he had to do. He could have easily just pulled back to the capital. He was the prime minister. Technically, he and Sun Quan was never at war until that point where he invaded them. Cheng Yu gave the advice that Liu Bei has now escaped south. At first, Sun Quan would take him in and use him because the threat of Cao Cao is too strong. But if Cao Cao doesn't attack, then Sun Quan and Liu Bei would fight each other, and Sun Quan would likely end up killing Liu Bei because Liu Bei was simply had no force at the time. And then at that point, if you come back and fight, it's a much easier fight. If you fight now, then Sun Quan will clearly arm Liu Bei's army and use his great generals to resist. So that clearly is what happened because Cao Cao felt so close, right? It's so close to uniting all of China. If he had won a Battle of Red Cliff, there will be no 3 kingdoms, right? 208, China will be reunited. Cao Cao is prime minister. Probably would usurp the emperor somewhere down the line after everywhere calms down, and Wei would have started much earlier, and Cao Cao would have actually became emperor. But because it didn't work out in 108, Three Kingdoms dragged up all the way to 289, 286. So another 80 years of war after this point. And Chongyu here lived on to his 80, and Cao Pi tried to make him one of the Grand Excellency positions after he became emperor. But Chongyu died before he could take the job because he was already very, very old. The next character here is Pang Ji. Pang Ji, who will no longer leave Yuan Shao's faction in a world betrayed on turn 1 if the player starts a legendary campaign. So this is another problem we ran into. Pang Ji here, most people know him as Feng Ji, right? The character in his surname. Today you read it as Feng, but back then it's read differently. It was called Pang Ji. So he is one of the earliest strategies to follow Yuan Shao, one of the very first advisors Yuan Shao had when Yuan Shao first went to the Yi province around Bohai. And it was him who gave Yuan Shao the plan to conquer Han Fu, who was providing them food. And he argued with Yuan Shao that they needed to take that food source themselves and not rely on another lord. So he's the one who came up with a plan to attack them together with Gong Sun Zan. And after Gong Sun Zan started attacking Han Fu joined up with Yuan Shao right away, just kind of surrendered. It was kind of the dilemma you played out in 190. It was all his plan. And later on, at the end of Yuan Shao's life, he kind of honored Yuan Shao's wishes to pass on the faction to Yuan Shang, the younger son, the favorite son, and not Yuan Tan, who is the eldest. And he actually went to Yuan Tan's faction after Yuan Shang took over to be sort of like, supervisor there to make sure Yuan Tan wasn't going to betray his younger brother. And Yuan Tan tried to arm up, and every time that Yuan Tan requested more troops, he would refuse it. And eventually got to the point where Yuan Tan got fed up with him and was determined to fight his brother. So kind of a civil war between Yuan Shao's sons. So he killed Pan Ji at that point, who was in his faction. So that's kind of his life. But he was definitely very loyal to Yuan Shao throughout. So having him leave on turn 1 makes no sense. Lastly, Cai Mao has been added back to Liu Bao's faction in a world betray. He was surprisingly missing since Cai Zhong and Cai He were there. And the Cai family obviously have huge influence in the Jin province. It's one of the reasons why Liu Bao came here and married Lady Cai as his new wife, because his old wife died. So he had a wife position open, and he married Lady Cai to kind of consolidate the powers within the Jin province to him. So Cai Mao, as kind of the male leader figure of that faction or that clan, wasn't present in A World Betrayed. He was just surprisingly missing. So it's nice to see him back. And that's all the hotfixes for now. More are going to be added as time comes out. It's nice to get these in because some of these were really major issues, like fervor not reducing. That's a huge issue. Titles not unlocking, and political influence bar not showing up for Liu Hong. So all these things are welcomed, and hope you guys enjoy this. Make sure to activate the beta in your Steam accounts to play this with all the hotfixes in. So see you guys in a few days when I come back with a full set of bandit guides that will cover bandit counties, how to build bandit commanderies, which one you want to keep, how to mess with your economy so you have infinite amount of loot. That's something they will definitely hotfix in the future because I think I broke the game. If you have seen my Yanbaihu campaign, where we're just have a great wall of generals in a loot train that's giving us infinite gold. We're having like 40k income per turn before like turn 60. It's kind of ridiculous. But hope you guys enjoy these patch breakdowns. We'll do more of these in the future, and see you guys next time. Bye.